Hello, my friends, and welcome to this follow-up video of epic proportions. Yeah. So, you're probably wondering what's up with this video, or rather, this picture, which you're seeing. I think you've seen this picture before, but it pretty much is the embodiment of how my mind works. And how I deal with something like what you saw earlier, being from Snatcher, and how my mind works is a whole lot different than most people would imagine. You see, growing up, and for people who have heard this story before, my apologies, but for those who have never heard this story before, let me go into detail. You see, when I was younger, the first thing I was getting into anime. So one weekend we went to my local we went to my local anime, not my local anime store, but it's a local video store. It's called Omni Video. And back during a time which, VHS was the thing to rent. And there were still cartridge games out. Well, one day I decided, you know what? Let's rent something. Mind you, 5 years old. 5, 6 years old. I was a kid, didn't know what the hell I got myself into. So I rented Go-Go 13, the professional, and Fist of the North Star. Mind you, me as a kid versus me now. Well, as soon as I saw Fist of the North Star, that was the first thing. And that was my first run into violence. Animated violence, animated gore. Between that and Go-Go 13, the professional, that basically shocked the living hell out of me. So we're talking about the mentioning of horror. Well, mind you, never seen horror in my life. I was a kid. Now, fast forward a couple of years later. 13 years old. 13, 14 years old. It was around that range. I remember in June, during that time, my father passed away. And what I mean by my father, I mean my father. The one in which I got my name from. So, by the way, my last name is Barbarin. So, I got my last name from him. So, like I said, I've experienced what fear is and what horror is. But, I've experienced fear. What horror is, I haven't got to that. But I have experienced death. One too many times for a person's no good. Because during that timeline, there was a snowball. A snowball was happening. Like first it was my dad, then it was my grandparents. So therefore, my grandmother went first, and then my grandfather. They were both in Louisiana, and it was really tragic how both of them died. One died of heart failure, same as my dad, heart failure. And, well, what killed my grandfather? Heartache. He had no reason to live without his wife. So therefore, he died in a nursing place, a nursing facility in Louisiana. They were treating him so terrible that really, if you went to a nursing facility and how old people were treated there, you know and you understand. So technically, it was hard on us. It's hard on my mom, especially because she just lost her parents. Now we snowball down to, say, down that line, a few years later, my Aunt Betty passed away. And then following after that was my Uncle Horace, but in the family we called him Uncle Junior. And then right after that, then my Aunt Lou, which in the family we called her auntie sister. Her full name is Lavinia, for those who don't know. And, well, she passed away of cancer. Now, let me see. Following after that, this is where I experienced fear. I experienced fear when I was married. I was in an abusive relationship when I was 24, 25. I was living in Japan at the time. And for that whole time, I was trying to make things work out. Sadly, things didn't work out the way they did because it was a very, very, very rocky relationship. Most times it was good for what it was worth. But at the same time, it was bad. It was more bad than good. Especially there are times in which when she got mad, she got mad. This was like the darkest time in my life because regardless of what happened, it happened. During that time, I did get raped. By her. Now, regardless of no matter how it's worded, rape is rape is rape is rape. There was no asking, there was no, permission involved. It happened. And let me tell you, right after that, like I said, it was the darkest time of my life because this happened to me. I was never the same since. And pretty much everything that was going on is pretty much what you see in this picture. This is my mindset as we speak. So, in regards to me doing anything horror related, this is me. This is pretty much me. I'm taking on hordes and hordes of evils that no sane man would take on. And I remember when I was doing a video about this, I was playing EDF and I was going through everything that was going on. But apparently there was no video footage. So therefore, I had to throw it away because I got all the audio all the audio was for it, but no video. So decided to say, you know what? I want to make a video regarding what I don't like about horror. And same can be said about Snatcher. Like, I just finished streaming Snatcher not too long ago. And I think that was like the only time I felt like I was strangely calm throughout this madness, because the last act was you're going through 2 rounds, really. 2 rounds of fighting super insectors and snatchers. And you had to get past those 2 in order to not. In order to get to the ending, you had to get past those 2 sections. And it took me about like almost the entire night to do that. And thankfully, it didn't take the entire night to do that. I'm actually uploading it right now as we speak. I had to combine the 2 because I accidentally hit the stop button by mistake, because I had my buttons mapped to my streaming buttons. So I said, well, you know, while most of the crew was in there, and to everybody who was in there, thank you. If what I did got a rouse out of you, I'm surprised I actually got a rouse out of most of you guys in there. Like I said, I'm no sane person. I'm far beyond the level of sane. After all the shit I went through, I was, oh, and let's not forget, I have a physical disability. You realize that when I go through mentally, it affects me physically? I mean, I didn't ask for epilepsy, and I sure as hell didn't ask for cerebral palsy. And all the fighting I've ever done was basically against the kids who used to pick on me just because I was smart. Not intelligent, smart. I can admit to it. I'm smart. But not intelligent. Intelligent means you have a certain level of being smart. Or you're smarter than most people, or you're gifted. Now, according to some people, they figured I was gifted. Personally, I didn't think I was gifted. It's like me learning how to do a website. It doesn't take gifted to make a website. You just had to know the formula. And anybody can do that. I'm one of those people who managed to do that. But I only did, until the site changed up the format and I couldn't really do it the same way. Because I didn't write it down to that degree. And on top of that, I was on a different format. Like, who remembers web TV? I was one of those people who were on web TV. That's how I started online web TV, up until where I am now on a PC. So mind you, basically, I'm just one person who's been sheltered most of my life. If not all my life, most of my life. There are some things I weren't ever taught. I started off homeschooled and eventually went into actual school. Wasn't private, just public. And I can understand why my mom mostly wanted to protect me, because I have this disability. I mean, I'm well aware of it. I mean, one side is shorter than the other. And physically, from what I'm feeling, I have one part of my backbone is like out compared to the other. So that's the result of the surgery I had when I was a child. Growing up with a disability, physical and mental, is basically like this picture you see here. But you know, the worst thing is being called retarded, being called brain dead, or what have you. Being called an idiot, it hurts much more than just, you know, it hurts much more than, say, the level of being less than a human. In Fire Emblem terms, that would be subhuman. So you wouldn't use the term Laguz, but that's what it feels like. You're a Laguz. You're a subhuman. So you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with survival horror? Well, I'm not a real big fan of survival horror. I tend to switch into a certain mode if I play a survival horror. So in order for me not to go down that mode, I had to alternate with something that'll keep me from going into depression, because I was depressed at one time. And that was right after my mom had passed. And I pretty much say it was really the second darkest time in my life, because after my mom passed, just everything started to everything started to stack up. And even now it's like everything is still stacking up because of what's going on with the transitions and everything. So if being asked, you know, when you're asked, when I say that me and horror don't get along, we really don't. Because the thing is, I can go darker than horror. I say, if you take a look in the inside of my brain, this is what it will look like. As it before, in my 20s, you could pretty much say that was much worse than this. Like, I could pretty much describe how it was during my 20s. 20s, I was just going through a lot of shit. I was semi-suicidal. I wasn't fully suicidal, thankfully. I'm just semi-suicidal because, like I said, been through some shit. Failed relationships and all that. During my 30s, I can say I was working. So being at school, it just basically gave me something to do. Plus, you know, I felt like I was giving something back. I felt like I was special. I felt that sort of part of me just felt some level of peace, and it was great, you know, teaching something that I only stayed in another country for a year. And what I knew from personal experience, just felt different, and it felt good because I actually did something. And I can just say, well, kids, this is what you need to know about A, B, C, D, F, G. And I did it for about a good 10 years, even though I never got paid for it. And I was about to be, but something happened. I was going to really be put on staff, and never happened because of politics. The in-house politics screwed everything up. On top of that, my family was getting older. My parents, my folks, they were getting up there in age, and nobody was actually watching them. So I had to make the executive decision to just say, you know what? I can't do it anymore. And then we come up to 2018, which was December 2018, in which I had a heart attack. And I faced death. I looked it square in the eye. And even though I was suffering from, say, my artery, I can pretty much say I cried at that point. And I could say, this is how I'm going to die? Is this it? This is how I'm going to die? Just, so I'm going to go. I'm not coming back from this? Are you fucking serious? So at least, come on, It was like, some of the game over continue screens. It's like you're trying to push the button, or you're trying to say insert a coin, a certain number of coins. It's like hurry up, hurry up, hurry, hurry up. Like it was going 9, 8, 7. It was counting down to 9 to 0. And then all I remember was me going through this. And pretty much my persona was that of, that was the last thing I remember my dad giving me, was a persona, an alter ego of my own. In which is technically my character on 14. He's nothing like this though. But his job is that of, well, part monk, part samurai, all dragoon. So he's a DPS character. I mean, those are basically my main jobs on 14 anyway. So pretty much that's been my persona all this time. Just like, it never had like a form, but I knew what it looked like. So technically, all the time, I've been fighting fear all my life. The horror and everything else. And even to some degree, even rage quitting, that's even funnier. So for what it's worth, yeah, I say it says a lot. So that said, will I still be continuing on what I'm doing now? Yeah, most certainly. It's going to take me a while to get back into swinging things, but Yeah, it's all well and good. Until next time, I'm still Izzy. I'm still braving the elements. I'm still doing what I can do to preserve my level of justice. And I'll see you soon. Okay? It's just as crazy as you think. I mean, really, it's as crazy as you think it really is, but I'm still here. And I'm still fighting. And I'm crazier than most people would think me as. Just I'm still Izzy. I still live. I still fight. I'm still wanting to get my own share of what I deserve. And simply, I have a disability. And whatever I gotta do at this point, I gotta do it. I'm not crazy, but people might deem me as that. So, I'm whatever people want me to think I am, but I'm not really. It is what it is. My life has always been crazy, so Bakaichidai. That in term, that's what it feels like. So I am exactly that. Bakaichidai. I'm crazy enough to live, and definitely crazy enough to deal with what people couldn't deal with. It is what it is. So until next of whatever I am going to stream and or record, I'm still here. As crazy as it might sound, and brave as it's make it seem out to be. Until next time. Abayo.